Is advertising an investment or a gamble? Years ago, when I lived in Las Vegas, people would come to visit and they'd want to go gamble. And so we'd go out together. I'd put a sum of money in my right front pocket. That was my betting money. My winnings went into my left front pocket. When my right front pocket ran dry, I was done for the evening. See, that system guaranteed I'd never spend more than I could afford. Of course, it also turned my career as a gambler into a crapshoot, no pun intended. Believe it or not, I've met a few local business owners who budget for advertising the same way. How much can they afford to lose? That's not investing, that's gambling. There are so many recommendations to choose from. The Small Business Administration suggests that 7 to 8% of your gross revenue is an appropriate advertising budget. LegalZoom thinks 9 to 12% is appropriate. Unless you're very small, then maybe as little as 2% would be enough. The National Institute, literally, if you're too small to come up with 10%, 2% of your too small revenues is going to grow your company? National Institute of Independent Business, no less than 2%, but no more than 5%. And the Houston Chronicle's Cron resource suggests 20 to 30% in the first 2 years, and then 7 to 10% thereafter. Here's the problem with all these guidelines. There are just too many variables unaccounted for. Now, 8 to 10% may be spot on for some companies, but it's got to be way off for others. I'm going to take you through a simple 3-step process to calculate the appropriate advertising budget for your specific company. 3 simple steps and you're done. Step 1, calculate markup. Markup is the amount of profit you build in above the actual costs of delivering heating and cooling services to your customers. Now, why is this important? Because the more profit you make on each transaction, the more of those dollars you can spend to recruit new customers. To calculate markup, you need annual gross sales and the costs for the year to produce those sales. That is, costs related to repair and installations, materials, equipment, labor, warranties, commissions. And if you have any form of a maintenance agreement, a priority club or a comfort club, be sure to include those figures as part of your demand calls, revenue, and labor figures. And don't include costs of insurance, office staff salaries, truck maintenance, other overhead. Limit your costs to those that apply directly to producing revenue. Now, divide your gross profits by costs to determine your markup. Express that as a percentage of cost. If you buy a part for $5 and you sell it for $12, gross profit is $7 and your markup is 140%. Pay a technician $20 an hour for his services, sell those services for $35 an hour, your labor gross profit is $15, your markup is 75%. Step 2. The next 2 figures you're going to choose based on your knowledge of your own business. What do you intend to generate in earnings in the coming year? Start with what you did last year, then figure how much more you believe your company will grow. If you did $2.2 million last year, but you want to grow to $2.5 this year, let's budget advertising proportional to the $2.5 million. Make sense? Okay, got a gross billing number now? Good. Now we're going to select an ad investment factor. That'll be a number somewhere between 10 and 12% of your anticipated gross revenue for the coming year. Let me give you some guidance to narrow down that 10 to 12%. If your company has been around since the Bush administration, you're probably well established and don't need as much publicity as a brand new startup needs. 10% may be appropriate. If you're one of the new kids on the block, 12% will probably be more effective for you. If you have quite a number of competitors, go higher. Fewer competitors, lower. What percentage of leads in your market are already buying from you? Less than 5%? Go higher. More than 20%? Shift slightly lower. How many trucks are you running compared to the other local contractors? Again, if you're one of the top dogs, lean toward 10%. If you're a small, scrappy outfit, lean toward 12%. You get the idea? By the way, you can choose fractional percentages too if that's your best estimation of what your investment should be. 10.5% or 11.33% are perfectly valid numbers. You now have two numbers, your projected gross revenue and the ad investment factor you just chose. Multiply one times the other. This is your unweighted cost of exposure.
Step 3.
Multiply that by the markup in step 1 and get your weighted cost of exposure. Finally, subtract your cost of occupancy, which is your rent or your mortgage, from the weighted cost of exposure and get your advertising budget. Let's just take a minute to explain that last step. The greater the traffic past your shop, the more likely people will see your sign. High-profile locations are way too expensive for most contractors who often locate in industrial parks that cost an awful lot less. Higher rent in a higher profile location means more people will actually see your company in action. Lower rent moves you off the main thoroughfares and cuts down visibility proportionally. Homeowners may never pass an industrial park, may never see your shop or your signs or even your trucks. Advertising is what you spend to reach people who never drive by and see your sign. That's why rent must be a factor in the advertising budget calculations. Let's review. Step 1, divide gross profits by costs to determine markup. Step 2, determine next year's gross revenue and your ad investment factor. Multiply them to get your unweighted cost of exposure. Multiply that by your markup, the one you calculated in step 1, and get your weighted cost of exposure. Step 3, subtract your rent from that weighted cost of exposure. The resulting figure is the amount you budget for advertising. I think you'll agree that our simple 3-step budgeting system reconciles all of those factors and delivers a practical and well thought out budget for HVAC contractors. I know that applying new business concepts can be confusing, so if any of the points in this video need additional clarity, or if you just want to discuss possibilities, call or click. This is HVAC Mastermind. I'm Chuck McKay.